shooting down in the woods. He wouldn't leave here even if he could. His life is good, yeah!
Hickok45, your internet shooting companion, coming to you from the beautiful hills of Middle Tennessee again. Yes, here in the reloading room, amongst all the various and sundry accoutrements related to the shooting business and hobby, I am yakking at you, the home of Alvin York, Jack Daniels, Dolly Parton, Davy Crockett, and others right here in Tennessee. They were not really from my reloading room, of course, just me. But, you know, speaking of Davy Crockett and that kind of thing, Davy Crockett's birthday is celebrated each year. May have mentioned this before, early in August, with kind of a celebration down in Lawrence County where he lived and worked and had his businesses going down in southern Middle Tennessee. Lawrence, I think it's Lawrence County, I guess, Lawrenceburg. But we go down, I don't know, probably average every other year, something like that. Miss it 2 or 3 years, then go a couple years in a row. They have a big weekend celebration with kind of an encampment, primitive encampment, or a 1830s, 40s, early 1800s, you know, encampment, similar to what they have up at Friendship, Indiana, in connection with the muzzleloading shoots, you know, a couple times a year. So I look forward to that. That's coming up pretty soon. I'm glad I thought of it because I like to get that on my calendar. It's usually around August the 10th or something. If you happen to live in Middle Tennessee or North Alabama or wherever, if you're not familiar with that, it's pretty neat. I think it's grown each year too. It's a little bit bigger. I don't guess we've done a video down there. I don't think we've really brought anything back in that regard. Video. We usually bring some stuff back, some black powder supplies of some kind, or a tomahawk or something. But I enjoy that kind of thing. Yeah, I know, I get excited about a scar, but I also get excited about that kind of stuff. You know, there's just something interesting about those primitive days and the primitive weapons of the day, the flintlock, and you know, the edged weapons, the edged tools that they carried, you know, the axe, and I mean, just cool stuff, Bowie knives, whatever. And you know, you learn a lot walking through those things. It's not just a shopping trip. You just, one of the things you encounter at those, if you've never been to one, the same at Friendship, and I'm sure several others, rendezvous around the country, is you witness living history. You see people encamped the way they would have done it, you know, in 1800, 1780, 1830, whatever. The same provisions and the same type of campfire, cooking utensils, clothing, tent, material, the whole 9 yards. So I admire those people for doing that. It's really it's work, especially when it's August and it's, you know, 95 degrees and humidity's to equal that, and they're there in their heavy, seems to be heavy woolen clothing and living out there, no air conditioning and that sort of thing. So those are always fun. And speaking of Friendship, I don't know if I talked about that. I went to Friendship in June and made my annual trek. John couldn't make it this trip, but I made it up there for a day and enjoyed that as well. Same type of thing. The primitive encampment and all the black powder related vendors and muzzleloading endeavors. Just soak that up for a day. Quite a lot of fun. So you know, that stuff is just interesting, and many of you know what I'm talking about. As I have talked about before, it's one of my soapboxes, I guess, is if you really enjoy firearms and shooting, you know, don't limit yourself to just one area. And of course, any of us can be guilty of that. I probably have at various times in my life, but really not for a long time, because I was fascinated by the muzzle loaders early on. And I guess I've been fascinated by every kind of firearm since early on. Well, there are some I'm not necessarily drawn to, but I am kind of drawn to almost any period of history and the various types. The most common, I guess you'd say, but not every single type of firearm intrigues me. But I like pretty much them all and find them very, very interesting. And I've talked about the Glock guys, or the modern pistoleros that don't want anything to do with even a double action revolver, or certainly a single action revolver, or archaic piece of iron like that, and they only want to talk about anything that uses black powder. Well, you've got people probably engaged in the black powder pursuits and muzzle loading. They're the same way. Don't really have anything to do with modern firearms, and don't want anything to do with, I guess, so I don't know, it's a variety of folks. I would guess most of the people, even in those encampments, probably have a Glock back home, or an M&P or a SIG or something. But there's still some that just stick with one area of interest, and that's their thing. That's okay. But you can miss out on a lot. You really, really can. They're all fun, and we're in a way playing with history. You're in a way studying history through the hobby, such as it is. And I mean, not in any depth necessarily, but you're touching on a lot of different periods of history. When you pick up an early Smith & Wesson Model 10 38 Special, how can you help but think about how popular that gun was for so long among police? The Model 10 38 Special. You pick up a Model 73 Winchester. If you know anything at all about history, it just takes you back into the 1870s, when that was such an innovation, and a new rifle and cartridge, and so popular. And a Hawken rifle, same thing, back in the 1840s, I guess, when that came about, 1850s, so popular, and one of the premier rifles. If you could get to St. Louis, have one made. It just takes you into those periods of history, just as the Glock does, into the 1980s, when that came about. I prowled around gun shops for several years, for over a decade, shooting and collecting guns before Glocks existed, at least in gun shops, or existed, period. Before Gaston Glock even came up with it. I was out shooting and prowling around gun shops in the 70s. So, it's hard to imagine a time, and I use the Glock as that example because it's so prolific, it's just pervasive everywhere, and if you're younger, under 40 or something, you probably can't even imagine a time when the Glock didn't exist. You mean it didn't exist? But anyway, just a little rambling about that. I've rambled about it before. Try to diversify and enjoy a variety of firearms. If you find yourself getting stale and not enjoying shooting as much, maybe you want to try something new. I mean, I could write a book sometime just on the various stages I've gone through in terms of firearms. I thought about doing it. I can just kind of roughly off the top of my head, I can think of just some periods of time when I was semi-preoccupied with certain shooting endeavors or newer things, different things for me. For example, when I discovered muzzle loading and the Hawken rifle, for 2 or 3 years, I was just really into that. I had a couple of different ones, and we'd go out and shoot those a lot, try different loads and types of projectiles. Just had a great time. Never did give it up totally, but I just remember that time when it was more new and intense. My discovery of the double action Smith & Wesson revolvers, in the 70s. I just had several different calibers, and that's about all I shot. Then I discovered in 1911 in the 70s, and had 2 or 3 of those, and learned to shoot those. Liked them. Did not shoot them maybe as much in the 70s and even early 80s as I did my revolvers. But I really learned to appreciate them and studied the history, of those fine pieces of iron. Then what? Well, I guess in the 80s I was just shooting everything. The early 80s, in the mid 80s, enjoying my 1911s, the Browning high power I had, enjoying that, enjoying the double action revolvers, 1911s, and some of that, and shotgunning. But then discovered the Glock and the 9mm, the Glock 17. It was all that was out there for a few years, and had fun with that while still enjoying the others. Then I began to open up a little bit more to rifles. I really didn't have any centerfire rifles. Can you believe that? I believe, if I'm correct, until about 86, 87, I did not own a centerfire rifle. I was that Browning 1886, I believe, was my first centerfire rifle of all things. And then what did I get next? I don't know. I kind of got into a little interest in the military surplus rifles, and picked up the Lee Enfield and some of that there in the 90s, and developed an appreciation for that. Learned more about the military rifles and all that. As far as handguns, I went through a spell there where once I got into competition, that dominated for a few years. I was just interested in getting better with the 1911 primarily, and then also the Glock, playing the IPSC game. And then even for a year or two tried the open class, shooting 38 Super in a compensated 1911. This is just before the optic sights and high capacity magazines were the thing. But I had some fun with that. Some good success and everything with that for a year or two there. And then I went back to my stock stuff, carry guns, and made sure I had 1911 that was stock, and then just competed with that, primarily that in a Glock and revolver. Shot a model 625 45 ACP revolver a lot in competition. Just never did get away from revolvers. Continually all the way through these years, enjoying the model 29, the big long barrel one I had, especially. And but I go through these spells, and I got into cowboy shooting in the 90s, later 90s, and then got into got all the stuff you needed for that, and was all excited about doing that. Went every month for a while, and just enjoyed it. After a couple of years, 3 years, I decided, you know what, I think if I'm going to do this, I'm going to load black powder, because I can do it. I had bought a Sharps rifle, a Shiloh Sharps, and was loading some 45-70 with black powder. So I figured I could load 45 Colt cases with it and shotgun shells, and that's what I did. And that was a big switch. I had to get a special kind of powder measure, more or less, that was supposed to be safe with black powder, and some of it had to do by hand, really, with shotgun shells, and then some of you have to do by hand anyway. But so I set up for that and learned everything I could about that, and doing that, experimented. So I went through a period of a few years there where that was kind of dominating my shooting endeavors, doing that well and getting that done, and loading lots of those, practicing with it some, and then going to those matches. And the lever gun, the 1873, the double barrel shotguns, and of course the single action pistols, and then the cleaning, how to clean them well, especially with black powder, a big operation. And just it seems like every few years through my shooting, there's been another area, a new area that I have needed to study and spend time with, kind of another door opening into just a totally different area in some ways, and enjoying it just thoroughly. I went through a period where I was interested in big bore African hunting guns. I've told you before, I had a 458 Win Mag Winchester Model 70. I had a 375 H&H Win Mag. That was a Browning A-bolt. And I'd shoot those. For about a year I had those. And just thought that was so cool and enjoyed those. Never hunted, just shot bowling pins, dead trees, things like that. had some fun with that. I could just, I guess, go on and on, with my different areas. Through the years and along the way, I became interested in, which I haven't even mentioned, was the evil black rifles. Just some of these military style rifles that are made so well. A H&K 93 was my first one of those. Then an AR-15, the one I still have, that A2 that you've seen. Just really like those. Then I've had a few different ARs, and I go back and forth. Where, I sometimes think, just give me a good lever gun. That's all I need in a rifle, and I'd be fine, and I would. But then I pick those up, and those are something else. They're quite an ingenious design, and anything made for the military, under a military contract, it undergoes a lot of testing. Now, I know things end up not being as well made or as durable as originally planned, perhaps, but generally speaking, if a gun has been made for the military or has been carried by the military for a number of years, most of those bugs have been worked out, and it is made to be reliable and durable, and that is one of the attractions. That's why we like those things, isn't it? It's one of the main attractions. There's just something fascinating about a firearm that will fire that well, that reliably, maybe hold 30 rounds and, just crank them out, and it's just really, really cool. I know there's a few sick minds out there, and that, of course, makes it hard on the rest of us, but, it's just like a car, having that hot Mustang or Camaro or something, or motorcycle that will just take off on you. Those things we guys just like. Doesn't represent power. Well, maybe it does represent power to some extent. They're just fun. But again, hopefully not our macho selves doesn't hinge on that. They're just fun and cool to own and fun to shoot. Just wonderful devices have been made out there. And then, of course, you tie that into history. You look at the M14 or the Garands. There's some really nifty firearms that have so much history and are still extremely enjoyable to shoot, fun to own. You just hold one of those things and wipe it down. There's pleasure just in doing that, and there just is. If you have a firearm, you know that. You're a gun nut. You wouldn't be listening to me yak about guns. I don't have to be a genius to know that, right? You know the feeling. We all get it. Now, if you have stumbled into the vlog or the radio show here, and you don't really know about firearms, they kind of scare you. Okay, don't be scared. But I'm going to confess something here. That all of us folks that enjoy firearms, we will tell you, and we're not ashamed to admit it, that after we have fired one of our favorite firearms, especially something that's just a really nice piece, a historical piece, to clean it, if you're really a gun enthusiast, I'll not use the word nut every time, I use that jokingly, of course, you enjoy it. You enjoy cleaning it. I really do. That's part of it. It's like reloading. A lot of people think reloading, oh, what a mess, what a job, what a task. Well, yeah, it does take time to get to it and get set up, and you have to study it. But that, too, in and of itself is a hobby, and it's very pleasurable. Anybody that does that, I think, will tell you that it's an enjoyable hobby, an enjoyable adjunct to the shooting sports endeavor. And likewise, cleaning a fine firearm. It may be messy, but as it gets cleaner and cleaner, and you just take it apart, maybe get it clean, put it back together, and you return it to original condition, to new condition, to better condition, maybe. And there's just something special about that. I think that's one of the reasons we guys, mostly guys, we like firearms. I think even a lot of the ladies who shoot a lot, here I go being sexist, but probably don't get as much of a warm feeling, cleaning the firearm. I could be wrong. I'm sure I am wrong with some, But I don't know. I just feel like that's a little bit of a more of a guy thing, maybe. Kind of like tuning the car or something. But doesn't bother me a bit to clean a firearm. Now it is a bit of a challenge when I have 5 or 6 or 8 of them, facing me here at one time. But not a problem. Not a problem. I enjoy taking one apart, cleaning it, putting it back together, and knowing that it's lubed properly. It's protected with my famous, well, it's not famous, but my favorite lube, Ballistol, because I know it's just, it enhances it, and it's kind of enriched. The wood and the metal and everything is enhanced. I wipe it down when I finish, put it away, and it's in better shape than it was when I brought it home new, generally speaking. So anyway, all that, is part of the hobby. And it's just a lot of fun. I kind of lost track of where I was going with that, didn't I? Well, maybe I didn't. I was just wrapping up, I guess. But there's a lot of different sides to the hobby. And hopefully you are enjoying all those sides. Speaking of the newer guns, the gun that I am fondling for the week for this show is, you probably can guess, it's a Big Evil black gun. No, it doesn't use black powder. Let me give you a clue. Yep, it's a Scar. Big Scar heavy. Scar 17S with this magazine full of .308 rounds. Yes, quite a round. Yeah, and by now you've seen a couple of 3 videos with it. One with mine making a cameo appearance, and then a couple of videos with the borrowed Scar. Of course, they're the same. The one I have acquired is black as well. Looks just like the other one. And I don't know if I told you this or not, but for me, mine also shot to the left a little bit, and so I moved the sights over and I left them. I returned the sights where they were for the borrowed Scar. But I have mine over, and it could just be the way I look at sights. I don't know. Or maybe it's the way the guy who sighted them in looks at sights, at the factory or something. But I have my sight over, and it's in pretty good shape. And I need to put it on paper or take some time with it, but really get it down to where there's no doubt exactly where it's going to hit at 100 yards or 50 yards or 200. But it's pretty close. And but anyway, yeah, that's what I'm fondling here at this big magazine, and it's quite a piece of engineering, as I point out in the videos. And fold the stock here. Yeah, that's pretty neat, and you'll be seeing more of it. And down the road here, we've already done a video with it, comparing it with another rifle of that type, more or less. So we don't put them all up at one time. I did want to put up the Chapter 2. I think I warned you that I'd be doing that, where I struggled a little bit in the first video. I wanted to just follow up kind of immediately with a little bit better shooting in the Chapter 2. It's just amazing, when you get your sights on, what you can do, right? I like the sights. I like the flip-up sights on an AR or a Scar. There's something about it. They feel good to me. I'll say feel good. I don't know. They just come up to the eye well or something. And maybe it's psychological. Better than bringing up a standard AR that has the carry handle. Shouldn't be any difference. If you've got the peep sight in the same place and the front sight, same elevation, it should not make a bit of difference. But I don't know. There's just something about it. I like that. Like it on the blackout, 300 blackout, and in this gun both. I don't know. I never thought I liked rails at all, where you had to put on a flip-up sight, back in, a few years back. But I've grown to really like those. Also like the traditional carry handle on an AR. Just, I don't know. Don't need it, of course, but it's kind of neat. But anyway, enjoyed the Scar stuff and doing those videos. Like I said, we just did another one with mine that we'll post here somewhere along the way. By the way, you guys get some inside information if you're listening to the radio shows, but please don't be hammering me about posting stuff that I might mention here. We do have a posting order, And believe it or not, there's a little bit of logic there. Might be strange logic, but I'll quit revealing secrets if you can't stay calm now, requesting things other people aren't supposed to know about yet. And speaking of the scar and the price, you know, what can I say about that? Well, that's the thing that held me back for so long. And as I said, I decided it was worth moving some things around in terms of trade, sale, /sale, that sort of thing, to get into one. And you know, people talk about something that's not worth it, or it's, you know, overpriced and all that kind of thing. We all know, we adults, that things are worth exactly what people will pay for them, no more, no less. Doesn't matter whether it's a professional athlete or anything else. It's almost silly to talk about. But things like that, it brings up a topic that I've kind of touched on before, and on kind of the other end of the pricing scale, I guess, where people feel like they cannot afford a $400 gun, but yet you look at their collection of guns, they've got 6 or 8, you know, pieces of junk. You know, you got 5 or 6 not that a single barrel shotgun's junk, I don't mean that, but you know what I'm saying. Have you ever seen a bust of some of these drug houses? Now, sometimes they got some really nice guns and firearms, but I don't know, some old boys out in the woods get busted for growing marijuana or something, and they've got all their guns laid out in the front yard where they were arrested. And of course, the news media likes to get lots of footage of the firearms as if they are cocaine or something. The only reason they're even in the news is the fact these people were growing marijuana or something, or they were selling drugs. The guns are perfectly legal until you sell drugs and you own them, right? But you know, sometimes you'll see a funny, a comical assortment of, you know, single shot shotguns and just oddball pistols you don't even recognize. There's a variety of things that, you know, in a yard sale, all of it total, you know, 8-10 guns might bring $1,000, that sort of thing. And I think it's something that we all, it's not just with firearms, but you have to back up occasionally and reevaluate what it is you want to own or enjoy in the hobby. By that I mean there are probably some folks, because I know I've come close to that myself, where there might be some firearms out there you'd like to own. You know, maybe it was back in the 70s. Wow, I'd love to have a Python. Just can't afford a Python. You know, back then they were $500 or something. Just can't afford one. So you buy a $300 Smith & Wesson, you know. And then next month you buy another $300 Smith & Wesson, you know. And somewhere along the line you buy a $350 Colt, and you buy another $400 Smith & Wesson later, or whatever. Well, in a few years, you got several $1,000s worth of Smith & Wessons and Colts, and who knows what else. But no, you can't afford a Python. See, you know what I'm saying? You know, so I think sometimes we all have to reevaluate our collection if we are collectors of firearms, or even if sometimes we don't realize we're collectors. You may have 15 guns. You start looking around thinking about what you have. You might have bought a couple that, I don't know, you don't really like that as much as you thought you would. It's just sort of in the safe or under the bed, wherever you keep it. And you start taking inventory, and you realize you got a couple of scars in the house in firearms that you don't even use anymore, don't even like necessarily as much as you thought you would. I don't know, just some thinking, you know. A lot of us don't have that situation because we end up purging, right? You end up, there's another gun on the market. Oh man, I love that. How am I going to get that? So a lot of people do turn their guns over pretty regularly, too regularly. I guess quite often it's just the opposite. People are always trading, and then sorry they traded, and ending up without a firearm that they kind of like, but they got the hots for something else. So kind of works both ways. But just be careful about that, saying that something is a little too expensive. Now, the scar really is expensive, but, you know, thinking a firearm is too expensive when you might have, you know, a bunch of, well, not junk, but a variety of firearms that would put you into one of those. If you didn't have all your money tied up in 49 single-barrel shotguns you don't shoot. have I done a radio show since KGB was down? I don't think I have. But I hope you enjoyed the KGB 65's little cameo appearance in our vlog. We enjoyed that. John and I kind of planned that before he came down, and I contacted him to ask him if he'd bring his Hickok get-up, where he was such an active participant in the parody contest we had a couple of years ago. And I've already told that how he almost won that thing. He came close to it and had about 3 entries and really got into that, and has been a long-time viewer from the very beginning. And we've become friends over the years. So we were glad to see him, invite him over, and invite him to be in the vlog. He wasn't so sure about that. We had to talk him into that. But that was fun. And we don't do that kind of thing very much, but we enjoyed doing that because he's a special guy, and he had a good time in Tennessee. How can you not have a good time in Tennessee? As far as that goes, people who are into shooting are people that enjoy fun, enjoy having a good time, and generally have a good time wherever they are. Some people, do you ever know anybody who just does not have a hobby of any kind? They can be some of the most boring people, can't they? Like, all they have to talk about is work or something, and they're probably not even interesting when they talk about work, because if you don't have any interest at all outside of work, it might be indicative that, I don't know, you just, I don't know, don't have any interest, and maybe you're not that interesting. I don't want to paint everybody with a broad brush there, but people who have hobbies, whether it's shooting or racing, model airplanes or anything, just tend to be more interesting people. I guess it's an indication that you sort of branch out from just the norm, and you're looking for some ways to have fun and relax, whatever it is. And I guess it indicates you enjoy life a little bit more, and you're looking for other ways to enjoy it. I don't know. I'll let somebody else psychoanalyze that, but generally speaking, people who are shooters, they're hard to hate. I know there's some wackos out there. There's a few sick people, of course. We see them on the internet, don't we? Some of them even have YouTube accounts, unfortunately. But 99% of people that are into shooting, just good folks. They're interesting people. There's a lot of differences among some of us, but people that have hobbies just seem to enjoy life a little bit more than me. I was listening to Tom Gresham this week on Gun Talk. I listen to him, try to catch his podcasts every week. I rarely catch him on the XM radio anymore, but I try to go into his site and catch his podcast, because Tom Gresham has a real radio show. We call this a radio show, but it's really just kind of reloading room ramblings or a fireside chat, that sort of thing. But he does a radio show. That's pretty much his claim to fame, and keeps up with everything, and has interesting interviews. So I highly recommend listening to him whenever you get a chance. He even interviewed me last year. I had fun. But he was talking about this UN treaty and the Firearms treaty and all that. And there is some, there's a lot of mythology about that, and a lot of I don't know if there's scare tactics or anything going on, but there's reason for concern, no doubt. Reason for concern, when that thing's voted on. As I understand, based on what I heard him talk about and some people that I think he was interviewing, is that if this thing passes, the Senate has to ratify it. So they have to vote on it, and that's where the general feeling is that the thing will be short-circuited, because even no matter what your politics are, if you're in the Senate and you vote for that, you're probably in trouble. Okay, your political life could just be over with. But we'll see how that goes. Make sure you are contacting your senators and letting them know how to vote properly on that. Okay, so it's I think that comes up here at the end of July. So follow that. Contact your senator, and be active politically. Kind of, again, who you vote for is your business, but do the research and figure out who is going to vote in your best interest. Okay. And that reminds me, on the one of the videos I did, I guess it was the new shooters video I did recently. I talked a little bit about, well, I didn't think it was politics, and most of you didn't either, but there were a couple of people that accused me of getting political, and I really intentionally tried not to be political, and by just advising people to do the research, and vote for the folks who are not putting our Second Amendment rights in jeopardy, that sort of thing. Whatever party they belong to. And so I didn't really feel like I was being political. But I realized, there were a few people that thought that I was. Not many at all, but I guess when you think about that, a lot of people do just kind of float through life, and they don't really, a lot of people don't even have a clue about the Second Amendment and how difficult it is to hang on to. If you don't follow politics at all, or what's going on in Washington at all, or with the Supreme Court at all, you don't even know who the vice president is. I saw some on the news here recently. They were interviewing people down at the beach on July 4th, I guess it was. People didn't know what Independence Day was celebrating. They didn't know couldn't name a founding father. These are people in their 20s. Look to me like, and they couldn't tell you, what we were celebrating. They didn't know. They didn't know who we became independent from. Couldn't even answer those questions. So and of course that's the extreme end of that. But probably a lot of people don't realize how so many of our rights do hang in the balance. It's in the Constitution, but it still comes down to how the Supreme Court interprets that. To a large extent. And there's just so many decisions that come down. The McDonnell and the Heller decisions made, in Washington D.C. and Chicago in recent years. The progress is slow, getting our rights back, basically, that have been have eroded to some extent. So it's a constant battle, and I think a lot of people have no clue about any of that. They just assume that there'll never be a problem. So those of us who keep up with it a little bit, now some of us even overreact the other way, and some of us are pretty belligerent about it, and it's hard to even have a conversation with some people. They're ready to take up arms now. You see those people. And on the other end, you got folks just walking around clueless. They don't have a clue. And you mentioned even keeping up with your representatives and making sure they're supporting Second Amendment, and they think you're being radical. That's kind of sad. But anyway, I do try to stay out of the politics. I've been pretty successful at that. And if a person is for individual freedom and liberty, and that he or she's probably got my vote. And I don't like to be a one-issue person. Somebody made a comment about, if you get too focused on the Second Amendment, voting on one issue, being a single-issue voter, that's not good and that sort of thing. And, I understand somebody saying that, because that does sound very intelligent. That sounds very wise. Do not be a single-issue voter. Well, it does. But I kind of am a single-issue voter. I vote for people who highly respect my individual liberty and freedom. I really do. That honor the Constitution. And that is the main issue with me. And so I guess I plead guilty to that. And I hope a lot of you do too. Now I know there are extremes of that, of course. You have an issue that the government's not taking good care of the roads or something. The government is not taking care of pine trees in Georgia. And because of that, anybody who doesn't vote for more funding for the pine trees in Georgia or something, you know, I vote out of office. I mean, I know there are extremes, but hey, I can't think of a better issue than liberty, individual liberty. And that's my issue. Another piece of news, of course, lately is the decision by Google to, and I've not studied it extensively, but to you know, not support in Google Shopping anybody who sells guns. As I understand, I've never used Google Shopping, but as I understand, you cannot get to shooting supplies or firearms now through that. Okay, so, and that, and of course, and I'm a heavy computer user, and the fact I haven't used that doesn't mean that's not an important step. It's Google. You know, Google is where I am. That's where you see me, right? And Google, YouTube. So I've always been a little wary. You know, this is based Google, YouTube, left coast outfit, and we kind of know their probably their persuasions when it comes to firearms. And fortunately, I guess we YouTubers are firearms video makers are making them some money. I don't know if it's enough, you know, to keep it going or not. Whatever happens with that, I'm not buying trouble. I'm not looking for trouble with that. You just never know, though, what you know, a company like that is likely to do. They're sitting around the board making decisions, but we will keep doing what we're doing somewhere. Hopefully, we'll pop up somewhere. Whatever happens, keep in touch. I'm on Twitter, Facebook. I don't keep up with those. One of the reasons I am on Facebook and have a Facebook account in Twitter is, you know, for that reason. I'll be honest with you. If I had to let you know, guess what, guys? We're, you know, YouTube goes away. You can find us here, or we'll be packaging DVDs every month with a couple of videos. If you're interested, I don't know. We haven't thought too much about that. What we'd do. It's really convenient and really nice to be able to do what we do on YouTube. Just upload it and, you know, reap the benefits of the advertising, so we don't have to think about ammunition and that kind of thing. We can keep it going. We can do some nice things for you and enjoy doing it ourselves. So it's working out really well. Hopefully there wouldn't have to be a backup plan, but you just never know about operations like that. It would be probably advisable for all of you who can to let Google know whether you are happy about their decision to remove firearms locations and shopping sources and whatever from Google Shopping. You know, they're like politicians. They'll go on doing whatever they want to do if they don't hear from people. To the contrary. But just thought I'd mention that. I'm not paranoid, even though everybody is out to get me. I know they are. They're watching me. They're out to get me. So, anyway, just wanted to mention that. Well, I know another thing I was going to talk about briefly, and that is the Takedown 1022 I have. We, again, remain calm, but we have a chapter 2 with that we'll post at some point here. We just finished the chapter 2. Could be a week, could be 2 weeks. Could be 5 months, I don't know, but we'll post it on our schedule. We had some trouble in the chapter 2 video, and you know, we normally don't edit those kinds of videos, but we did. We didn't finish the video, but it was painful. Oh man, we started having trouble even with the Ruger magazines, and those things just generally don't cause trouble. So it was really the ammo, as it turns out. Now I know with a 22 you can have a little trouble with any magazine and any ammo, and a semi-automatic especially. But it was getting ridiculous towards the end of that video. So we finished it, and I said, John, we can't post. That's going to be painful for people to sit through there those last 4 or 5 minutes. And And you know, we're not hiding anything about the gun. So what we decided to do a day or two later, we just why don't we don't want to trash a video because it went pretty well up until that, and why don't we it's that bulk ammo, you know, it's been out here in the barn for a few years. I don't know if it's the heat's gotten to it, I don't know, banged it around too, I don't know. It's the Federal bulk ammo. One round was just a powder puff round and it barely got out the barrel. You hear that in the video. And it was just sort of hanging up and acting up. And so I told John he couldn't come out the next day. I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll take those magazines apart, make sure they were clean, because they were all new, those Ruger mags, and I'll use put some CCI in them. So we should have used CCI to begin with, or better ammo, I guess. And that's what I did. The next day, messing around out here, I took all of them apart. I had never taken one of those things apart. They're really an interesting design. That's a weird spring, I'll have to say. They weren't dirty. They were fine. But I did. I went ahead and took them all apart, put them back together just to make sure, all 4 of them. And I loaded some CCI and Blazer, which is supposed to be good 22 ammo, from what I hear, in all 4, actually 6 of them, the 2 Butler Creek mags too. So then I went out with the gun and I shot all 6 mags, or at least half of all 6 mags, and had no trouble. So, you know, our theory was pretty much correct, is that the ammo was what was giving us trouble, the bulk ammo. As we know, bulk ammo can. Now, generally the Federal bulk seems to do better than the Remington, but we were having enough trouble with it that it was just getting a little painful or frustrating to me. And so we went back through the video almost to the end, right when I started really having to, I mean, it was just like, okay, why are we filming this? You know, it was so painful. But and we just cut it and redid the ending with CCI and the Blazer ammo, and in the video explained, you know, what happened there. So anyway, so I'd throw that in here while I'm thinking about it. So one of the things we want to make sure we don't do is edit a video to make me look better, make a gun look better, make anything look better. So we've got some malfunctions there in the video with this bulk ammo, and like I say, it got to the point where it was just, you know, we really needed to just exit the video and start over. But we didn't want to start over. We shot up a world of 12 ounces and everything else. So anyway, we finished the video and it worked out fine. But just to let you know what was going on there, no big secrets concealed or anything like that. Well, I better let you go, and I know you're getting tired of listening to the gun nut, and hope you get a chance to do some shooting yourself this summer. Lots of shooting, all that you can. Not just watch me do it, although I hope you continue watching me. It's a lot of fun being able to bring you guys bullet slinging. We'll continue to do that, and y'all have a great rest of the week. You've been listening to the Hickok 45 radio show. See you on the range.